Hello everyone again and welcome. For the past videos, we're looking on how we can load data in R, do some analysis, whether they are CSV files, whether they are Excel files. So we will be continuing today with frequency tables, more on contingency tables and proportions. I know we have seen in previous lectures, previous videos, how we could like just get a table from categorical data. But if you had to do maybe copy those tables into something like maybe like a Word document or maybe a PowerPoint, those tables might not be nice. So first things first, I want us, before we continue with this video, you need to install this library. I've installed it on my system, which is installed on packages of the Penguins, Parma Penguin, which is like the data set we'll be using demonstration. If you run, since I've installed that library, you run it, we should have something like that. Let's see. Let's do just run this data set. The description, it has like 344 rows and 8 variables. We can do a view on this data to see which are the columns. So let's say initially we want to just get a table of the species. We have the species column. We can also do a table of these islands and so on. So if I run these, we should have this table. This is something we can, if you have to copy this table into Word, you need to type it or maybe into a PowerPoint, which you might not like doing that. There are different ways we can make this table nicer. Maybe if you want it more like in a publication, what do you do? So that's what we'll be looking at. We can, we can also do proportions here, right? We've seen this in previous lectures. So first things first, I want you to install this library, which is Flex table, as also this IVO table. I've installed them already. I'm going to just load these libraries. And one thing I want us to do, if I want maybe working on a Word document or PowerPoint, and I want to use the Flex a table which is having maybe a Word document or maybe something I can export easily, so that I can do my presentation. I've loaded a library, so what I'm going to be working on will be on this Flex table. So we have seen how piping, so I'm going to call that my penguin data. I'm using pipes in R. We have seen this lesson already. I'll do pipes. What I'm doing is I'm going to select selecting species from that penguin data. Still, I'll do another pipe. Now under this, I can do tbl underscore summary. And then still another pipe. We can do as underscore no, let's not go through. We can, let me use this other library. Let me use the IVO library. This one might be a little bit easy rather than going through the pipes. It's a little bit longer, so I can do IVO underscore table, and I'll do the penguins data set. Then what am I going to do? I need just a species column. So we have seen this already in R. I'll pass this. I need that column species. And then I run this. You see, if we look at here, we see that this table is a little bit nicer. It's having some, as compared to this one that we had initially. This one is not looking best, but if we look at this one here, now we can export this one. If I want this image, I can export it somewhere as, or maybe I can copy it, I can export it as a picture, which is looking much more nicer. Here it wasn't showing the species, it just only talked about the different types of species, but here we can see species. we have the different types, using that the IVO tables. This is a little bit nicer. Still with this, we can use the notion of pipes. Remember we are using this IVO table library. We can do pipes where we can do penguins, and then I'm going to do pipes there. I will select you know that you can just hit the enter key and you do select, making your code a little bit nicer. Select species, and then now I want to apply the IVO underscore what table, and you can pass in a color, maybe the color type, let me say I want dark red, and then comma, the font size I can take, say Garamond, and then I want the percent, next thing is percent underscore by, I want that to be what, row, run it. This use other 1%. Let's make sure I'm fine. Yeah, percent. I'm missing an arrow here. Select. Why is it not seeing select? Oh, I see why it's not seeing select, because I have to load the dplyr library. Okay, and I run this first. Make sure that you have that run, and then from there you should see that select. So you see that when I do this, you see this table is a little bit nicer. It has calculated this now based on percentages rather than the initial one that we had. If I go back here, it wasn't in percentages. And if you look at the percentages that we had initially here, it wasn't nice. This is a way we can formatting the rows by percentage, and it's a very nice table. We can say, okay, 44 percent belong to this category of species for those penguins, and 19% belong here. We had 36%, and so on. And if we have to add all of these, you see that it sums to like 100%, which there is a better way of designing this kind of tables. You can do different things. Like if I wanted to do still with the pipes, I can do penguins, and then I do a pipe here. I'm doing select, and I'm passing the species, but what I am going to do now is instead I'm going to do the IVO underscore table. There's what we call long table is equals to true. Remember, we can use either capital T, or we can write it true in false and see what happens. You see here, this is like a long table. So for the long table type, you see it's a little bit different. We put this where we have the species and the account as two columns, and then we can it depends on how you want this to be. I think, do you want it in long table format? Do you just want it like in this format with anything? It all depends on you. That is a better way of creating tables that are a little bit nicer. And we see we can export this table even if we are putting it in our Word document, or maybe PowerPoint. We can do it that way. But if you still, if you want to save it directly as a Word document, you can still do that. You can still use that flexible. You can use that flex table library. Yeah, you can run. We already run that flex table library. And this time around, I'm going to still use pipes. I will do penguins, and then run these. what am I doing? I'm selecting. Remember, I must now, you can select different things. I select the species, then I get out of here, and then I'm still using my pipes. And then what am I doing? I'm using my ivo underscore tables, and then out of here I want to do what I'll do, save underscore as. I want it to save as a document. I can do the path where I want to save, and I'll just do my underscore table dot doc. You see, now it has saved this table more like a document file. So we can, you have to know, we know how to get working directory. Where is our working directory, so that we can know where this thing is saved, and then we can go look for it. So you have to know, you see our current working directory now. I didn't set it to the location we have been doing, so you see that this thing will be found under my documents. So if I want to do this, I can click here and then try to see if I can find this under my documents. Go under my documents, and then we can see, yeah, we see if I go under my documents, which is we can see under my table. If I launch it, I should be able to see the table which is now created in Word. So we see that if I pull this table now, we see that this table is like a Word document. It's like the other table we have been having, but exported in Word. So you can manipulate this table in Word. You can format it. You can do anything. That's just the way you can convert your stuff directly to Microsoft Word if you do not want to be keeping these tables in just like base tables where you can export them. But if you want it as an image, remember, you can click here and save it as something in a particular folder. You can choose where you want to, the directory where you want to save it. You can choose whether you have a folder on the desktop, and then you save it in there. And then like in Microsoft Word, you can always import it like an image, and then you continue your whatever report you were working on, which is a little bit easy. So that is it. So one way that is just, so if we have like just doing a frequency table. Now we will be having cases where we have like contingency tables. Contingency tables are also known as cross tabulations or cross tables, used to summarize relationship between two or more variables. If you have two or more variables, we want to look at their relationships, especially those variables are categorical, as we have seen. You can use what we call contingency tables, which for the penguin data, for example, species and island, we can try to do something without pipes. We call that, if you want to do that in R, you call what, F tables. You can just do F tables, and then you with the F tables, I will do penguins. You already have that penguins. I'm doing a contingency table, like a cross table between the species and penguins. I'm doing with what, the islands. You can run it. We have like a cross table where it gets the total number of the species and the various islands. So we can do more of this. Is a contingency table. If you want to measure the relationship between if you're trying to see if there is a significant difference between these the different penguin species or with the various islands, which we'll call it a chi-square test. We are going to see all of that when we move to statistical testing. You first of all need to look at this contingency table, which is a cross table between two categorical variables. If you do not want, so you see this table is just something we can do, but if I wanted to do it using the ivo table, remember I have to first of all load that table, and then now I will use my piping, and I'll do a select, and what am I doing? I'm going to do in this select, I'm doing species and what, and the various islands, and another pipe. I'm doing what? Just an IVO table. So we see here that this is another IVO table. See, now we can do, like, if you want to save this table looks more nicer like than this. This doesn't really make sense. And this one you can export it as an image and then save it and import it in whatever, whether you're working in a report or maybe you are doing a presentation, which is a little more flexible than using these kind of tables. So if you want to format it, like say using the flex tables, you can do the font size. If you want it to be in percentages, you can see do it as we did for the previous one. And so like if I want to do it in terms of the percentages, you have to go back to this format, like something like this, and pass in the percentage by row. But here you have to make sure I can copy this. Let's just say I copy this out and we try it. If I copy this and paste it, if I want it by the islands, and then you can also save it as a document if you want to. So Word document as we did if you want to, but I don't want to save it. So you see that this is more like in percentages. If you want this display in percentages, percentages are always very good because they can tell the story to someone easily rather than just using count. So that was it for our video today. The next video we are going to be looking at three-way and four-way contingency tables. And thank you so much, and keep following for more.